If I had to go back to 800 followers and build my entire brand over from zero tomorrow, then this is the one video that I'd want to watch first to scale the thing back up overall. Right. There's a million videos online, as you guys have seen, telling barbers how to go viral, how to grow on TikTok or how to get to 100,000 followers. And to be honest with you guys, most of it is garbage because half of the guys teaching, they're not even barbers themselves, right? Why to trust me is because I actually did it. I went from 800 to 120,000 followers on Instagram. My haircut prices from $30 a cut in a brand new city and state. I moved from Juneau, Alaska to California to 120 a cut, actually 125 a cut. So boom, monthly revenue as well. Went from making 2K months, right, to 22K months behind the chair. Only cut 2 to 3 days a week. Plus I do coaching on top of it, showing other people how to do the same thing as well overall. Right. Boom. So at the end of the day, building a real personal brand as a barber really just comes down to two content types and just like one simple rule overall. And it is to post the two types and your brand will build itself over time. If you get it wrong, you might just post 500 videos and still be at 1,000 followers, still charging, $30 a cut. So this video is definitely something you want to stay for. I'm gonna drop a LeBron James analogy in the middle, and it's gonna make all of it click, to a whole nother level, so you guys can actually go ahead and implement everything in here for yourselves and for your business, right? So if you're a barber who's actually serious about building something real, not just trying to chase views overall, right? Not just hoping for one viral video because it's not how it works, right? Then this video is for you, and let's get into it. So before we get into the two content types, we gotta just overall lock in on the rule first, and it's that the two content types don't work without this rule, right? And the rule simply is be authentic, right? It sounds basic, sounds easy, but at the end of the day, it's not, because most barbers on social media are literally doing the opposite. I'm sure you guys have seen it. You've seen the scripted reels, the fake clients, acting like somebody they're not, and just like trying to chase every trend overall, which in reality, right? Yeah, it might work in the short term, right? You'll get views, maybe a little bit of followers overall, maybe some clients, some of you guys, watching this are probably even doing this yourselves, and like getting decent numbers off scripted content. And if that's working, then good for you. But here's what happens to 90% of barbers who actually build on scripted content, right? They get burnt out because the fake content is exhausting to keep up, right? They don't actually enjoy making content anymore. Their followers don't actually like them, right? Month 6, you guys end up quitting, right? Or, they'll post once or every 2 weeks. The brand dies, following goes cold, and all the work that you did is pretty much gone, it's cooked, right? But the authentic barbers, right, they still keep going because their brand actually compounds. Their followers grow with them, and they make content that gets better because they actually end up enjoying making it at the end of the day. So the rule is final form, just don't try to be somebody that you're not, right? Don't fake every reel, right? The best personal brand you could ever build is literally you. This is a picture of me, but just amplified overall. So now we're going to be going over content that actually gets you clients, right? This is the short-term money maker that actually goes ahead and pays the bills. What this is overall is content that actually pays your bills while you're actually building a real brand overall, right? So you're knocking two birds with one stone. You get content that gets you clients, and on top of that, you're building an actual real brand, right? So at the end of the day, we all want more money, and the way you make more money isn't hoping for freaking brand deals in 3 years, right? It's literally by driving demand for cuts right now, raising your prices, working fewer days, and like actually having time to live and go enjoy your day, or eventually like work on a different business, right? Boom. Got a whole video on 4 content types barbers should post, and it's going to be linked in the description, so you should actually go ahead and watch that video after. There's a lot of gems overall in there, right? But we'll just like touch base on everything a little bit in here, right? So that would be consultation videos, right? And the reason why consultation videos win is it's a double whammy, right? It shows your face, voice, personality, and expertise all at once, right? And on top of that, it's showing a transformation. The client walks out looking fresh and just like a different person overall. And at the end of the day, you cannot beat that combo, right? Who you are and how you talk to your clients, how you solve problems, and what the cut and transformation actually turns out, all in just like a 20 seconds overall, right? Or 60 seconds, right? And the most important part is you let your real personality consultations. You don't audition for a TikTok character, right? You actually have a real conversation, joke around a little bit, maybe roast them a little bit if they're cool with it, and actually ask real questions, right? You're not trying to attract random viewers here. You're trying to attract people who actually fuck with you specifically, right? Because people want to book with you because of who you are and not just because your fades are clean. Like literally any barber, a 15-year-old barber can do a clean fade like a 35-year-old barber that's been in the game for 5-10 years. You, at the end of the day, right? So that's how you build a clientele that actually sticks with you through price raises. Right? I've had so many price raises, went from 30 to 85 bucks a cut, and I never saw like any clients really drop off, right? Boom. Viewers actually turn into $100 bookings, right? And if you're actually shy on camera, I got something for everybody who's like a little shy overall, because I get it. When you first start making content, you're not gonna maybe want to be right on the camera, but there's option 2, which is voiceover videos, right? It's the same type of idea. You just have a lot lower risk, right? Not showing your face, talking in real time, voiceover, B-roll of a cut, explaining why their hair does what it does, and then walk through how you're actually fixing it, right? You can still stay authentic, still use your own voice and your expertise and personality. You could also script it out on your own terms, though, overall, at home and like after the cut. And the progression here, right? You start with voiceovers, build the confidence, and then you move to consultations, because voiceovers, you don't have to show face, right? Then you can move into consultations, right? After you're comfortable, right? Some of my students, they've actually started on voiceovers and then they end up doing consultations within 30 days once they really just stop being scared, of the camera overall. You're right. Type 1, equals clients, bills, and just foundation overall. Boom. So now we're going to get into story content, which is like really a totally different game, but it's, a long-term play overall, and we're going to be going over like what it actually is and what it isn't, right? So not just like Instagram stories, not the feature overall, but it's like content about your actual story itself, right? Your journey, your life, and who you actually are outside the chair, right? And this is the content that, most barbers, even myself, I'll be guilty of this, right? Basically just skip this step, right? But you don't want to, because this is a content that attracts what I call the dream followers. And what is a dream follower, you might be asking? It's not people that won't book with you, right? Not gonna sit in your chair for, like a cut. They don't live nearby, right? In a different city, different state, different country. They don't even need a cut, half of them don't even need a haircut, right? But your dream follower, they'll follow you for years because they like you. They like you. They like your journey, and they actually relate to your struggle, and they want to see you win overall, right? Your dream followers, right? This is where the real money is like actually made, eventually. Not at month 1, but, in maybe like in year 2, year 3, when you want to drop a hair product line, they'll buy it. When you do cuts in a new city that you've never even been before. Like, for example, me right now, moving from Santa Barbara to Hollywood to Los Angeles, it's about like a 2-hour away. It's a totally different city, right? But I'm already booking in clients in LA because I've been able to do this for myself, right? They will show up at the end of the day. This is how you build a long-lasting personal brand, right? Because they're actually your long-term business. A barber with a following equals a actual real brand. So how to actually build dream followers? Well, you got to show them your real life and your real story, right? Well, this is an example. What to actually talk about? When you were charging 30 bucks a cut and couldn't pay rent, the mentor you dropped $7,000 on when you were broke, right? The depression phase, your parents, what made you start cutting in the first place, right? Boom. That's literally me, and we're gonna talk a little bit more about this, overall, right? Let's just say when I was 19, I was charging 30 bucks a cut. I barely could pay rent. I had 7K in my bank account and I dropped 7K on a mentor, right? Boom. Share that. I would share that. That's an example for me. There's a point in my life where I was a little bit depressed overall. You know, I shared that as well. People relate to me as well. My parents didn't want me dropping out of college to be a barber full time. Sharing that as well allows people to actually relate. Your story needs to be shared because your story is unique. Whatever you're going through at the end of the day, share it because this allows people to buy into you long term. Right? Boom. Key points here. You want to be vulnerable, be real, show the struggle and not just the wins. Right? And the reason it works is content that only, shows cuts, is thin. Right? Anybody can post a cut, but the barber who posts the losses too, the day he almost quit because he's been posting for so long, right? And not seeing results. The moment that he was doubting himself, there's so many times where I've wanted to give up as well when posting content scaling the business, right? But I shared that online. I shared that and it allowed people to buy into me long term, right? The conversation with, my girl that almost broke up with me, right? There's been so many times where I've been in relationships and the girls were just they'll just do some weird shit, right? Post about that too if that's you, right? Because I did. Be vulnerable. The more vulnerable you are on camera, the better. The more people will actually relate overall. It's going to help you so much more long term, right? Because at the end of the day, that's the barber that people will get attached to, right? Followers they're not just followers, they actually become fans. And at the end of the day, fans will buy anything that you put out. Think about, somebody like, let's just say LeBron James, right? Yes, he's the best he's one of the best basketball players, one of the GOATs, but people are bought into him long term because of his story. Because he grew up in Akron, Ohio, single mom, dad left him, X, Y, and Z, grew up very poor overall, absolutely grinded, right? Went to the NBA right out of high school, right? People buy into LeBron. They buy all his stuff. They see all his games because they've been seeing the whole journey. They connect with him. They know what he's about. They know everything. It's the same with you guys, right? So be vulnerable, show everything, show your story, and be as authentic as possible when doing this type of content. All right. And now I'm about to talk a little bit more about LeBron and just really explain this for you guys, right? So, boom. Remember that LeBron thing, I mentioned in the beginning, right? We're going to go into it, right? So, LeBron got fans who's been watching him since 2003, literally including myself. Kids who grew up watching him, watch him win with the Cavs, go to Miami, come back and win in LA, right? And his 20-year journey, 2003, kids started watching him, day one fans. Went to the Cavs. It was kind of his first chapter overall. Hometown hero rising up. Miami, he had the decision. He dipped. He had his villain era, and he had a lot of fans that stayed. When he went back to Cleveland, he returned, right? His fans still stayed. And when he went to LA for a new chapter, win again. He just won more games. He won chips, right? Fans were still with him. But they ain't just basketball fans. They're literally LeBron fans, right? You don't they're gonna tell you they're a LeBron fan. They're gonna tell you they're an NBA fan, right? His first signature shoe, well, those people bought it, whether they even played basketball or not. Right? Think about Jordans too. There's people who don't even watch the NBA, who played basketball, but they still buy in Jordans shoes. It's the same with LeBron, right? They didn't buy it because it was a basketball shoe. They bought it because LeBron made it, right? They've been following him for 20 years, and of course they wanted that, right? That's a dream follower. Right, now you got to apply it to you, right? You're a barber, right? Your vehicle is barbering, but if you only ever post about barbering, fades, clients, and cuts, you're just a service provider, with a following, right? And the second you try and sell anything that's, not a haircut, nobody's going to buy because nobody actually knows who you are. But if you build a story alongside barbering, show who you are, where you came from, what you're about, then you drop a pomade line or a clothing brand in a few years, then those dream followers will buy. And they won't even ask for the price. And that's exactly what we're building here, right? So now we're going to be going over how the two types actually work together, Right? Barbering is a vehicle. It's the thing that you do to make money right now. Right? Gets you clients, monetizes, the short term, pays your bills, gets you from $30 to $100 cuts, gets you from 2 to 15K months, drives a business today. But building a brand builds your brand long term. Dream followers, fans who ride with you for life and buy whatever you launch down the line. You need both. And running only one, right? You'll make short term money, never scale past barber with a following, and you'll be stuck in the chair forever, right, if you only do that one. But if you do only this one, you'll have fans who love you, but you won't be able to pay your rent, and at the end of the day, nobody's paying bills off just your story alone, at least right now, right? But together, that's how you build a brand, like a real barber brand, right? In the short term, clients will come through the door, you'll be seeing money in the bank account. You'll be raising your prices. You'll be working for your days, buying your time back, right? But in the long term, you're going to be building a loyal fan base, monetizing outside the chair, be able to drop product lines, coaching, brand deals, whatever you want at the end of the day, right? And this is just a little bit of the results I've been able to generate for myself. And that is the entire game. Authenticity. If you take nothing else and take this, right? If you want to just throw everything else I told you in the roof, at least have this stick, authenticity across both types of content, right? In every piece of content. In the consultation video, be yourself. Don't script a personality, right? Joke around with your clients, the way you actually would. Ask real questions and actually let the conversation breathe. Have it be natural. Voiceover, speak normal. Don't do the TikTok barber voice, Don't try and copy other people, right? Just say what you'd say if you were explaining the cut to a homie, genuinely, right? On top of that, your story content, be vulnerable. Don't only post wins, post the struggle, post the doubts, post the real stuff that actually counts, right? Because everything I just said about building a brand, it only works if the brand is actually you, not a version you, not a persona, not a character, You have to put on you when the camera's rolling. You need to be authentic across both, right? Brand compounds year after year, no burnout, followers you actually want, and dream followers that show up and stay. If you're not authentic, you can post thousands of videos and never actually build something real. And that is the whole game. So, 2 types, 1 rule, and a real brand. So let me wrap this around you guys' head. The first type, to get clients. Second type, to get fans, dream followers, right? Both authentic versions of you, right? They both need to have you being authentic. And within 12 to 24 months of consistency, you're not just gonna be a barber anymore. You're a barber with a personal brand. And a barber with a real personal brand can do whatever the heck he wants, right? A real brand, a real fan base, a real business that outlives just the chair, right? And if you want me to hold your hand, through actually building this thing out, dialing in your consultations, figuring out your story, pulling dream followers to your page, then, I got an option for you, right? I got a dope-ass program with a countless number of barbers winning, scaling, right? Serious about building a real personal brand and scaling past, 10K a month. Or if you're already doing 10K a month, all right, how can you buy your time back so that you have more time for your family, your friends, your loved ones, or to work on a new business overall, where you're not going to have to be behind the chair, and also so you could build a real brand, right? Every content type dialed in. You'll have editors that actually handle editing for you. You'll have weekly calls with me, real feedback on your videos, full system done for you, or done with you, sorry. And for the guys who don't just want more clients, who actually want more out of their career, period, right, who are trying to build the type of following that'll let them launch products, do their own thing, and eventually get off the chair if they want, right? The link's in the description. Just jump into the application, and me personally, not somebody else, me personally, I will get back to you myself, right? And if you haven't watched my video on the 4 types that actually convert as a barber, then you gotta watch that one next. Because this video is a strategy, that one's the execution, and you guys need them both, right? Look forward to seeing your guys' applications. Click the link in the description. With that being said, I'll see you guys on the next one.